Get ready for a terrific story where the protagonist gracefully massacres a traitor in front of all the witnesses. He has been languishing in misery and betrayal, but now it's time for retribution. When our hero discovered his wife's treason, he decided not to leave her unpunished. Standing before the eyes of all the witnesses, he resolutely and gracefully dealt with the adulteress, putting an end to her double game. But this is only the beginning of a story where the drama of fate and treason are intertwined in a trap of revenge. Enter this dark world where the lines between truth and justice are blurred and revenge engulfs hearts like a blazing fire. What will become of the hero, immersed in this dark symphony of treason and retribution? Will he be able to overcome his anger and find true liberation, or will his own soul become a prisoner of dark passions? Reveal with us the mystery behind this amazing story of treason, revenge, and willpower. But beware, dear viewers. Shocks await you that will leave a mark on your soul and make you question the nature of human nature. My story is called The Beautiful Wedding. Yes, it really is beautiful. After breaking up with a girlfriend I had been dating for about 3 years, I of course talked for a while. But one day, in a club, I met her. Or rather, she approached me herself. A built, beautiful model. We got acquainted, talked. When we were sitting at the table, she took out her phone to call a cab. I saw a favorite in my dialed contacts. Okay, didn't ask anything. Walked her home. We met the next day and went to a movie. She told me that she lived and worked in Moscow and was leaving again soon. I said okay. I was awkward with it, so we parted ways. A week later she called me and said, "I miss you and I'm coming to see you." We were at the club. That's where I went to the train station to pick her up, and then we went to a hotel. There we hung out for 3 days. We got high, ate, drank, made love. She was on fire in bed. She told me about her relationship with a guy from my city. She also had a man in the capital, a director of a construction company, as you can imagine, with all that implied. Anyway, here we go. She fell in love with me, dumped her boyfriend and her uncle with the dough. I went to see her, she came to see me. I was a 5th-year engineering student at the time, making money playing poker on the internet. My income was about 3 average salaries in an average provincial town. This is not to brag, just a fact. I have to say that she was earning much more than me many times over. One day, she started talking about the time we should live together. I gladly supported her. We decided that she should leave Moscow because I studied full-time and the distance relations were very annoying. We started a life together. And you know, friends, she was not at all afraid to live with the student Katala, who lives the game. She was ready to get caught up in the posh metropolitan life. Kind of like Bold Heaven and in the Shalash. Anyway, took her to our hometown. There was no limit to our happiness, and it was true. Love, idyll, buzz, fairy tale, because they are relationships. And so I graduated. It is clear that to get a job was not an option, because in my field of study I got paid as much as I could win in a few days. I played, by the way, every day. Sometimes 24 hours a day when there was a good company, and less frequently, I played live. I have to admit that I dedicated the lion's share of my time to the game. And it paid off. After a couple of years, I was playing very high, earning already crazy money. She understood me, sharing my wins as well as my losses. Spent time in salons, in fitness classes, with girlfriends. I didn't allow her to work either. We practically never fought, but one day she threw a tantrum about my game. I explained everything popularly, that I cannot live any other way, and besides, I do not want to. I calmed her down and a couple of days later made her a surprise. A brand new red Mercedes coupe was parked under the window of my apartment with her. She was in 7th heaven in a way. After a while we decided to get married. We had the most fucked up wedding. We started getting ready for this moment. And I think everyone now understands what that is. And it's evening. I'm at the computer undressing another spoonful, and I hear an incomprehensible conversation with her on the phone, or rather her voice. This voice I heard a few years ago, when I missed her very much. We chatted on the phone for hours on end, when we were apart. I was pushed into my chair at the same moment. My eyes darkened, the tables of cards jumbled. I was in such shock that words can't describe it. I realized that, yes, the end had crept up on me. But how? I thought, because the wedding is in a month and a half. I sat for an hour, maybe two, almost motionless, stupid, staring at the monitor. Then, going downstairs, I asked who she was talking to. She said, of course, that she was with a friend. Yeah, well, what else could she say, right? And I could see by her body movements that it was a bluff. Believe me, it's hard for a poker player to fool the average person, because my nonverbal skills were 5+. Experience in the game, plus study of psychology, you get the idea. The morning I took her car, telling her I was taking it to the service, installing a new alarm system. I put a cell phone controlled alarm in the Mercedes. Fortunately, they are now quite available and have almost every specialized service. I registered it and my number in a program. This, in turn, allowed me to call my Mercedes by dialing a certain code. I could listen to everything that was going on in the car. I was 99% aware that our attitude was total Alice, and with only a 1% chance, I could have mixed up her voice on that call yesterday. It took me a little less than a week to realize that all my doubts were confirmed. I won't bore you with how I felt. I won't. There was only one thing that stuck in my mind. How to punish the bastard. I came up with a fucking plan. Forgive her and tell her nothing. Get married and live happily ever after. But listen, don't jump to conclusions, dear listeners. And don't prematurely call me a moron, a reindeer, and so on. Let's listen to the end. So, a month before the wedding, I could not hide my emotions. She understood. Yes, she realized something was wrong. I made a reference to losing large sums of money every day. She took the bait and didn't suspect a thing. A couple weeks before the wedding, I told her I wanted to sell her Mercedes and buy something like a Cayenne. You know, a bigger one. Since my beloved is dear to me, and I am all about her safety after all, it worked out very well. The car was sold in a day for a third below market. Didn't care. So we made it to the wedding. Everything was set. Zach's, Schmuck's, best restaurant, all the relatives, all seated, drinks. The fun began. We were, of course, at the head of the table. I waited for a moment. That's it. It's decided. It's time. Misha, brother, pass me a bottle of vodka. Buddy, what are you? A tip. You still have your wedding night ahead of you, my friend told me. I told him, as I remember now. Listen, I really need it. Nog, here you go. Then I poured myself a whole flask of vodka. Can you imagine? I get up. I take the microphone. Dear guests, I'm grateful that you all took the time to attend our wedding. And I, believe me, could not fail to prepare a gift for you. Everyone fell silent at that moment and listened to my wagon with a kind of genuine attention. I continued, I drink to you, my dears. Pour. Let's drink together. And everyone obediently drank. I, in turn, crammed a whole flask of vodka in my shaking hands. And now the surprise, as I promised. DJ, turn on that flash drive I gave you. DJ, so hurriedly and perhaps even timidly, reached into his pocket. He found the flash drive, plugged it in, and everyone froze. Next, a dialogue began to be heard. Hello, hi. Hello, Zai. Well, how are you today? Sorry, today is unlikely to work out. Why? Your asshole decided to take the day off today. Come on, can he do that? He can. He's got all the fucking money in the world to win. He's sitting upstairs in his office. I can't. I want you. Where are you now, baby? I'm on my way home from the salon. I think I should at least feed him. and he's laughing at the same time. Ah, I'm so hungry too. I could eat you. Mung? Tempting. Go for it. You won't regret it. Just come in for half an hour. I miss you. Well, alright, fine. I'll be there in 15, 20 minutes. You ready, naughty boy? Always ready. Baby, that's it. Come on. I'll be right there. That's it, folks. And that was the end of my story. That's why I consider it a masterpiece wedding. But a few words about how I'm doing right now. Well, right now, I'm doing great. I didn't have any more serious relationships. And not the slightest desire. As for the fiancée, I just wanted her. You can't lie like that in front of people. But I thought it was too light a punishment for her. Then I wanted to say in ZAXA, no. But that's kind of womanly, you have to agree. Finally decided that a flush of shame would be just right. After the tape was over, I have to admit, things didn't go according to plan. Somebody didn't understand anything at all. It's kind of like the old guard. Some cried. Somebody screamed. What is this, a prank? Yeah, there was that, too. The thing is that about 70% of the audience didn't know that I was making money playing. And the bride's voice, to people unfamiliar with her, was somehow, alien. It was just hard to make out. And to my acquaintances, too, by the way. I was confused and there was nothing I could think of to say to the guests. The bride will explain everything to you now. At that moment, the very same flute of vodka, I remember it as I do now, had already begun to work. I turned to her and slipped her the microphone. She knocked it out of my hands and ran out into the street in tears. My loved ones came up to me, started hugging me and calming me down. And I said this, guys, I'm fine. My brother whispered to me, I always knew you were a monster. But what would it come to? Oh, everyone will remember your wedding all his motherfucking life. You're handsome. I told the witness to give the gifts back. I asked him to sign each gift, and he was initially aware of this outcome. The Toastmaster was also aware. I asked him in advance to comfort all the guests and prepare a speech in style. Anything happens in this life and blah, blah, blah. And so it was. Everyone slowly began to leave, but my friends and I let ourselves a little coconut and flew to the brothel. So there you go. A few days later, my fiancé called me, wondering when the divorce was. That's funny. We got divorced, by the way, without shackles. Quietly, peacefully. I don't know where she is now. We never saw each other again after that. And now we come to the second story. He had been betrayed, his trust broken, but now it was time for retribution. When the hero discovered his wife's betrayal, his heart was filled with rage and determination. He went into the shadows, plotting his revenge to answer for all the betrayal and deceit. But this is only the beginning of a story where the drama of fate and treason are intertwined in a dangerous game between truth and lies. Enter this dark world where revenge becomes a driving force and plans unfold with deadly precision. What trials and dangers await the hero in his journey of revenge? Will he be able to execute his plan to the end, or will he become a victim of his own rage? All the answers are hidden in the darkest corners of his soul and the unpredictability of fate. Are you ready to wade through the fog of moral dilemmas and find out what lies behind the mask of revenge? Good day to all. I first found out about her infidelity 10 years ago, exactly. I will not tell you what I experienced then, and what hell my life turned into. The main thing, and I think the most important thing, is that I managed to pull myself together and began to think. Our son was just a baby, and I did not dare to leave him alone with her, and I was overwhelmed with feelings. I loved her until I couldn't stop thinking. No, I was not going to forgive, but I realized that the divorce was not the answer, and love is transformed into something else, the opposite feeling. And then I wanted wildly to be together. Not just to go out, but to hurt and humiliate. By the way, I do not fall for women. I love communication, flirting, but intimacy for me, it is such a long-standing physiological need, or something. But in any case, not a terrible craving and pleasure, for in his youth, tried everything, or almost everything I wanted. I built and nurtured my plan for a very long time, trying to take into account all the details. The hardest thing was to pretend to be some kind of a sucker who believes in her faithfulness and love, and yet does not notice anything. And she, by the way, had been in control for a couple of years, trying to be faithful. But Gorbatov, you know, nothing can fix that. I did not go to the left myself. I was not interested. With women, it was always easy for me, and somehow it was quite easy to get into bed. When I slept with her, I imagined that there was a girl of easy virtue underneath me, whom I was paying for. Over the years, I had managed to make some good money in a left-hand account that she didn't know about. I'd bought a place to live, so I'd done my homework. And I also made a person out of her, gave her a small business, brought her out into the world, got to know my business partners. My son grew up, he understands everything. My mother-in-law loves me even too much. All her friends and business partners are sure that I pray to her. We have an idol, and that love reigns all around us. She, on the other hand, for all this time blindly believing in my naivety, continued to go left from time to time. About a couple of years ago, I started to drift away from her. Intimacy was practically gone from our life. We were not engaged in it. From communication with her, I decided to suspend. Then quickly had an affair with the secretary of my deputy, so that she heard the rumors. There was a scandal at home, but I ended up staying clean, because it was also part of my plan. I must pay tribute to her intuition. She quickly broke up with another favorite and began to anxiously take care of me, for a divorce would destroy her image at least. On this, she could not allow anything. Then I started drooling about our love, and she calmed down, and at the same time decided to spin another novel. I had already played around and decided to take action, so she had a corporate party. I, of course, was not invited, but I made a surprise visit. Before that, I already knew from her correspondence what time she was going to drive there. She was tense, but didn't show it. As planned, she stayed late. As planned, he started texting her on Viber. As planned, I took her phone from her and read the contents of their correspondence to those present. Phrases like, "I'm all burning up, but my husband came over," or "My baby's ready, send your sucker to bed, waiting for you." You know, stuff like that. Afterwards, I threw the phone on the floor and left. It was pathetic to look at the faces of those present. I took only my documents from the house, because my new apartment had everything I needed for my new life. Almost 2 months had passed. I call her friends, trying to comfort me. Her business partners call. They say we didn't know, and they try to assure me of their friendship. Yeah, of course I do. My son comes in, has a fight with her, wants to move in with me. Whether she calls, I don't know. Her number's blacklisted. The truth is, my son says things have not gone well for her, to put it mildly. Almost everyone has turned their back on her. And then there's the divorce, the property division. It's going to be ridiculous there. There's a lot she doesn't know. I'm doing great now. For the first time in a long time, I'm at peace. And no more revenge and pretending to be a man. Love yourself and keep a cool head. Treason cannot be forgiven because honest women are few, but they are. And do not take my example, please. 10 years to endure it is hard. Not everyone can. And as for my wife, all that is left to do is to take away her property and livelihood. My lawyer's already prepared everything. She's going to live on the street. My son will move in with me tomorrow. The matter has already been settled. That will be the end of the story. For the last 5 years, she lived well. She was a respectable lady, nowadays. Poisoned the respect of her peers. No partners left either. Believe me, I know. She doesn't own any property. Her firm is mortgaged to the hilt. I did my best. Partition in a divorce will be fun. That's where my lawyer did his best. I got her pretty high, so the fall will be very painful. And by the way, I don't expect my son to turn his back on her completely. After all, she is his mother. So far, he's taken my side. He and I have always been friends. We'll see. He is going through puberty now. Dear listeners, thank you for watching this video and for subscribing to the channel, giving your likes and dislikes, as well as for participating in the discussion of each story in the comments to the video. This helps the channel grow and attract new audiences.